Well, good morning, Little Warrior Church. It is time for another daily Bible reading. It is in the afternoon. So, today is the 5th, but when I was doing the Bible lesson on the 4th, I was recording and it didn't take. So I'm going to have to do it over again, which is actually a good thing because it was in the morning. I was halfway tired. And I was reading what we're about to read thinking, what is going on here? Am I reading like a Dan Brown novel or a or a novel about some kind of like a murder killing? What am I reading here? That's what I was thinking, and I'm actually glad that I get to do this over again because I studied up on it a little bit. I understand it a little bit more, and I have to warn you, what we're about to read is rated X. It is something that that if you started to pick up the Bible, you're not going to think of these verses here. If you picked up the Bible thinking, I'm going to get closer to God, I'm going to read the Gospels or anything like that. This is the last thing that you would think is actually in the Bible. With that, this started as a Facebook group. If you'd like to join the Facebook, there is a link down in the comments if you're over in the podcast. With that said, let's get on with this. We're going to be in Judges. I want you to strap in because what we're about to read is it's rough. That's the only way I know how to put it. It's rough. So chapter 19 of Judges. Just knowing what we're about to read is almost like I'm laughing on the inside, knowing that you have no idea what's coming. Let me take a drink here to get ready. Chapter 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, there was a certain Levite living on the farther side of the hill country of Ephraim, who took for himself a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. A concubine. So let's go into a little bit what this is. So men had wives back in those days, which was the legal wife. They had the heirs who would get the property of the husband. So the heirs would get the property of the father. Concubines, however, were a legal wife. They were a legal wife, and they had legal rights such as food, money, shelter, but they had no legal rights as far as property or anything that they would inherit. Such is true with the concubines' offspring. They could have food, everything like that, but they could not inherit land or property or anything like that. So that's how it worked. Interesting to note that God did not endorse this. It is in the law, but God did not endorse this. He did not want this to happen, but this is how men worked. Out of Bethlehem, Judah, his concubine played the prostitute against him and went away from him to her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there for 4 months. Her husband arose, went after her to speak kindly to her, to bring her again, having his servant with him and a couple of donkeys. She brought him into her father's house, and when the father of the young lady saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. His father-in-law, the young lady's father, kept him there, and he stayed with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and stayed there. On the 4th day, they got up early in the morning and rose up to depart. The young lady's father said to his son-in-law, "Strengthen your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward you shall go your way." So they sat down, ate, and drank, both of them together. Then the young lady's father said to the man, "Please be pleased to stay all night, and let your heart be merry." The man rose up to depart, but his father-in-law urged him, and he stayed there again. He rose up early in the morning on the 5th day to depart, and the young lady's father said, "Please strengthen your heart and stay until the day declines." And they both ate. When the man rose up to depart, he and his concubine and his servant and his father-in-law, the young lady's father, said to him, "Behold, now the day draws to evening. Please stay all night. Behold, the day is ending. Stay here, that your heart may be merry, and tomorrow go on your way early. Then you may go home." But the man wouldn't stay all night, but he rose up and went near Jebus, also called Jerusalem. With him were a couple of saddled donkeys. His concubine was also with him. Now I want you guys to strap in. This is where it gets bad. And when you read this, you're going to have your eyes wide open, your mouth is going to drop, and you're going to be like, this is in the Bible. Okay. 11. When they rose to Jebus, the day was far spent, and the servant said to his master, "Please come and let's enter into the city of the Jebusites and stay in it." His master said to him, We won't enter to that city of a foreigner that is not of the children of Israel, but we will pass over to Geba. He said to his servant, come and let's draw near to one of these places, and we will lodge in Geba, or in Ramah. So they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down on them near Geba, which belongs to Benjamin. So Geba belongs to what? Who? The tribe of Benjamin. So who is in the tribe of Benjamin? Well, this is Jewish territory. These are Jewish people. I want you to remember this, okay? They went over there to go in to stay in Geba, and went in and sat down on the street of the city, for there was no one who took them into his house to stay. Behold, an old man came from his work out of the field at evening. Now the man was from the hill country of Ephraim and lived in Geba. But the men of the place were Benjamites. Benjamites were who? A part of the tribe of the 12 tribes of Israel. Remember this. He lifted up his eyes and saw the wayfaring man in the street of the city, and the old man said, where are you going? Where did you come from? He said to him, we are passing from Bethlehem, Judea, to the farther side of the hill country of Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem, Judah. I am going to Yahweh's house, and there is one who has taken me into his house. Yet there is both straw and feed for our donkeys. And there is bread and wine also for me, and your servant, and for the young man who is with your servants. There is no lacking of anything. The old man said, peace be to you. Just let me supply all your needs, but don't sleep in the street. So he brought him into his house and gave the donkeys fodder. Then they washed their feet and ate and drank. Get ready. As they were making hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain wicked fellows, surrounded the house, beating at the door, and they spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have sex with him. Does this ring a bell? Does this ring a bell? Sodom and Gomorrah, when the angels came to Lot, and the men surrounded the house, saying, bring out these men, that we may have sex with him? But was that Jewish territory? No, it wasn't. It wasn't Jewish territory at that time. These were Jewish people at that time. So what was going on? What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? It got struck with hellfire. God utterly destroyed the city. But that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is we just went through the book of Moses, who established the law. We went through the book of Joshua, and they came in and destroyed all the nations. All the nations, not all of them, which they were supposed to do in the first place, but they didn't, and this is why they're having problems here. But they destroyed all the nations, and they got the place where they were supposed to live, the place where God set them to be the I can't remember the place where God wanted them to be, the Holy Land, the Promised Land. That's what I'm thinking, the Promised Land. So we are literally looking at how far the 12 tribes of Israel has fallen from reading from Deuteronomy, which Moses gave them. They were supposed to read from Deuteronomy every 7 years. How far they fell from the law, which they were supposed to do. How far they fell from everything. These are Jewish people. These are not Gentiles. These are Jewish people doing this. So what is going on? Let's keep on reading, because this gets incredibly wicked. Verse 23, the master of the house went out to them and said to them, no, my brothers, please don't act so wickedly as to rape this man that is under my roof, because if you don't know, if someone came under your roof, then you are in legal protection of them. If something happens to someone who is under your roof, who is a guest in your house, then you are held responsible. So the master of the house, went out to them and said, no, my brothers, don't please act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, don't do this folly. Behold, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out now, humble them, and do with them what seems good to you. But to this man, don't do any such folly. How in the world? How in the world? What just happened? Apparently, in this guy's head, raping a man is much worse than raping two virgin and a concubine, or a virgin and a concubine. Apparently, this is an awful thing. How can anybody think like this? Let's keep on going to verse 25. But the men wouldn't listen to him. Obviously not. But the man grabbed his concubine, literally, the man we were just talking about who went and... Okay, first of all, let's get some things clear. This man's concubine left him for 4 months to go play a prostitute. He went and found her at her father's house to bring her back because he loved her so much. They're in the city. Men surround the city saying, "We bring out the man so we may have sex with him, literally kill him." That's what they were implying. So this man who loves his concubine so much, what does he do? The man grabs his concubine and brought her out to them, and they had sex with her and abused her all night until the morning. How, oh, dude, I don't even know. How callous do you have to be? That's not even, we haven't even got to the good part yet. How callous how callous this guy is to his legal wife concubine. Let's keep on going. Why not? Then the woman came. They abused her all night. When the day began to dawn, they let her go. Then the woman came the dawning of the day and fell down at the door of the man's house where her lord was until it was light. Her lord rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house. Like literally, we missed the best part. We missed the best part because we're reading so fast. This man takes his wife, his concubine, out of the house and says, "Here, humble her, have sex with her all night, and kill her," basically, because that's what this mob was wanting to do with this man. They wanted to have sex with him and kill him. He goes to sleep. He literally goes to sleep. What? Off, honey. Bye. Have a good time. What? This man is so callous, and like I don't even know how to react to this. And behold, the woman, his concubine, had fallen down the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. This woman, I literally almost want to cry for this woman, but I'm not going to do it on stream. I'm not going to do it here. But I literally want to cry for this woman. That's how badly I feel for her. This is awful. This is an awful thing. He doesn't even go out to look for her. He stumbles upon her. Then he said to her, "Get up. Let's get going." Is no one here? Is no one listening to this? What is going on here? Get up. Let's get going. Let's get going. You just were abused and you're now laying here dead. Come on, let's get going. How callous of a man is this? No wonder she ran away. Come on. But no one answered. Then he took her up on a donkey, and the man rose up and went to his place. It's done, right? It's done. No, we're not done. In fact, I need to take a drink because I just can't. I can't. Verse 29. When he had come to his house, he took a knife. He took a knife and cut up his concubine and divided her limb by limb into 12 pieces. Like, what are we watching? Dexter? What's going on here? And divided her into 12 pieces and sent her throughout all the borders of Israel. It was so that all who saw it... So what he did... This doesn't really go into it, but what he did is he cut her up into 12 pieces. He sent her out to the 12 tribes of Israel. Why? Because he was in the city, Benjamite city, the Jewish people. So he sent her limbs to all the 12 tribes of Israel to say, "Look at what this tribe did to my concubine, to my wife." And all who said it said, "Such a deed has not been done or seen from this day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak." So what he wanted them to do was see it, speak, and so they could do something. But whose real fault is it really? Whose fault is it really? I mean, it was his fault. He should have been the protector. He should have protected her, but he didn't. He went and found her 4 months later at his father's house because he loved her so much, wanted to take her home. But all of a sudden, when men surround the city wanting to take him, he sends her instead. It's his fault. It's his fault. But what we're going to see in chapter 20. Chapter 20, this gets resolved. So let's see how this goes. Like, when you read the Bible, you don't think that this is in it. You don't think that this is in it. But there's a lesson to get out of this and why it's in the Bible that I think, I mean, what it is in my head, at least. So let's keep on going to chapter 20. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was assembled as one man, from Dan and even to Beersheba, from the land of Gilead to Yahweh at Mizpah. So all the tribes of Israel came up. They were going to go against Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, for doing this, because they were outraged. So what this man did, dividing his concubine and sending all the pieces out to the 12 tribes of Israel, has taken an effect. Now the 12 tribes of Israel are upset. The chiefs of all the people, of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen who drew swords. So all the 12 tribes of Israel came out, 400,000 footmen came out. All right. So there's 4,000 warriors for the 12 tribes of Israel, not including Benjamin. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. The children of Israel said, "Tell us how this wickedness happened." The Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered, "I came into Geba that belonged to Benjamin, and I my concubine to spend the night. Then the men of Geba rose against me and surrounded the house by night. They intended to kill me, and they raped my concubine." How did that happen? How did that happen? Could you have pushed her at the door? I think that's how it happened. You should be accountable. And she is dead. Ah, man. How did she die? Well, you pushed her out, you jerk. 6. I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Okay. Behold, you children of Israel, all of you, give her here your advice and counsel. All the people arose as one man, saying, "None of us will go to his tent, neither will any of us turn to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Geba. We will go up against it by lot, and we will take 10 men of the 100,000 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and go 100 to 100 and 1,000 out to 10,000 to get food for the people, that they may go. When they come to Geba of the Benjamin, according to all the folly that the men of Geba had done in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, knit together as one man. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What wickedness is that has happened to you?" So now they're upset. They're going to the tribe. All the tribes are going to the Benjamin, saying, "What wickedness has this happened among you? Now therefore deliver up the men, the wicked fellows who are in Geba, that we may put them to death, and put away evil from Israel." All the tribe of Benjamin had to do was say, "Sure, here you go. That is evil. That sounds awful." But that's not what happens. Let's read. But Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. The children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities of Geba to go to the battle against the children of Israel. The children of Benjamin were counted on that day out of the cities, 26,000 men who drew up the sword, in addition to the inhabitants of Geba. So there's 400,000 versus 26,000. Who do you think is going to win? Let's see what happens. Who were counted 700 chosen men. Among all these soldiers were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Every one of them could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. The men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were counted 400,000 men who drew sword. All these were men of war. This is a side note, but the tribe of Benjamin was known to be ambidextrous. They could use either hand, so that they trained to use either hand, because in battle that would be very, it would be a good thing. Verse 18, the children of Israel rose and went up to Bethel and asked counsel of God. They asked, "Who shall go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin?" Yahweh said, "Judah first." The children of Israel rose up that morning and escaped against Geba. The men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel set to battle in array against them at Geba. The children of Benjamin came out to Geba, and on that day destroyed 22,000 of the Israelite men down to the ground. I think we read that correctly, right? There were 26,000 Benjamites, but they destroyed 22,000 of the Israelite who were, these are men of valor. These are rough dudes. the Benjamites. The people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and set the battle again in array at the place where they set themselves in array the first day. The children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until evening, because the Benjamites pretty much utterly destroyed these people. The children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until evening, and they asked of Yahweh, saying, Shall I go again? Shall I again draw near to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? Yahweh said, Go up against him. Verse 24, the children of Israel came near against the children of Benjamin the second day. Benjamin went out against them at Geba the second day and destroyed down to the ground the children of Israel again 18,000 men. They destroyed them again. What is God trying to do? What is this? All these drew the sword. Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel, and they wept and sat before Yahweh and fasted that day until evening. Then they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. Oh, now they're doing it right. Now they're doing it right. At first, they're angry. They want revenge. They want to make this right, but it's on their own power. And they ask God, who shall go up against them? Judah. Go on. You want to set things right without me? Go on. And they're utterly destroyed. Second day. Should we go again? Go on against him. Go ahead. See what happens. Let's go. They get utterly destroyed again. And then what happens? Now they do it right. Now they start to do it right. They fasted. And then they offered peace offerings before Yahweh. The children of Israel asked Yahweh, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go to the battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? Yahweh said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver him into your hands. Now you're relying on God to do it instead of your own hands. Israel set ambushes all around Gibeah. The children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day and set themselves in array against Gibeah as the other times. The children of Benjamin went out against the people and were drawn away from the city, and they began to strike and kill of the people as other times in the highways, of which one goes to Bethel and the other to Gibeah in the field. About 30 men of Israel. The children of Benjamin said, They are struck down before us as the first. But the children of Israel said, Let's flee and draw away from the city to the highways. All the men of Israel rose up to their place and set themselves in array at Baal Tamar. Then the ambushers of Israel broke out of their place, even to the Merah Geba. 10,000 chosen men out of the Israel came over against Geba, and the battle was severe, but they didn't know that disaster was close to them. Yahweh struck Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of Benjamin that day 25,100 men. All these drew the sword, so the children of Benjamin saw that they were struck. For the men of Israel yielded to Benjamin because they trusted the ambushers, whom they had set against Geba. The ambushers hurried and rushed on Geba, and the ambushers spread out and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the ambushers was that they should make a great cloud of smoke rise up of the city. The men of Israel turned in the battle of Benjamin again to strike and kill the men of Israel, about 30 persons, for they said, Surely they are struck down before us as of the first battle. But when the cloud began to rise about the city in a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the whole city went up in smoke in the sky. The men of Israel turned, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw the disaster had come on them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel to the way of the wilderness. But the battle followed hard after them, and those who came out of the cities destroyed them in the middle of it. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and trod them down at the resting place, as far as near Geba, towards the sunrise. 18,000 men of Benjamin fell, all those who were men of valor. They turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they gleaned 5,000 men of them in the highways. They followed hard after them in Gibeon, and struck 2,000 men of them, so that all who fell that day of the Benjamin were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of valor, but 600 men turned and fled towards the wilderness of the rock of Rimmon. and stayed in the rock of Rimmon 4 months. The men of Israel turned again on the children of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, including the entire city, the livestock, and all they had found. Moreover, they set all the cities which they found on fire. That is a long chapter, confusing. But what is the moral of the story? Is that sin needs to go punished, and that do not rely on your own strength to end. To get vengeance and to get vengeance, because they asked God, "What shall we? Can we do this? Can we go against the Benjaminites? Who shall go first?" They didn't even ask God, "Shall they go to war?" They just asked God, "Who can go first?" And God said, "Judah. Why not? Let's go." Then they asked, "Can we go again?" And God says, "Go again, see what happens." Then the third time they finally humble themselves before God and say, "Can we go against these people, or should we stop?" Because Benjamin had done this great sin, he allowed them to go and pretty much utterly destroy the tribe of Benjamin. We'll see that 600 left. If you're shocked that this is in the Bible, I'm right there with you. But it's in the Bible for a reason, for us to understand that here was the Israel, and I'm raising my hand here for the people who are in the podcast. Here's the tribe of Israel, really high. In the time of Moses, there is miracles. They get freed from Egypt, and slowly by slowly, if they don't have any leadership, they go into the state of Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? It got utterly destroyed because it was so evil. And that's where they are right now. That's where they are without leadership. That's where they are without someone rising up. But even then, someone would rise up. And when that person would die, they would go back into following other gods, other things like that. I can imagine being God and saying, this is I can't get through to them. Like, I literally can't get through to them. They know what to do. I gave them the law. I gave them Moses. They know what to do. And if they would do it, they would prosper, as in my promise in Deuteronomy. But they don't. All right, I'm tired of talking about this. Let's go to the book of John. Let's go to the book of John. John 3. Chapter 3, we're going to be in verse 22. After these things, Jesus came with his disciples into the land of Judea. He stayed with them there and baptized. John also was baptized in Arnon near Salim, because there was much water there. They came and were baptized, for John was not yet thrown into prison. Therefore, a dispute arose on the part of John's disciples with some Jews about purification. They came to John and said to him, "Rabbi, he who was with you beyond the Jordan, to whom you have testified, behold, he baptizes, and everyone is coming to him." John answered, "A man can receive nothing unless it has been given to him from heaven. You yourselves testify that I said, I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him. He who has the bride of the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom, who stands and hears him, rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Therefore my joy is made full. He must increase, but I must decrease." So if you know anything about Jewish customs and marriage, they would get engaged. A man and woman would get engaged, and then the husband would leave to go prepare a place for his wife. He might be gone a year, 2 years. But when he is done preparing a place, he would come back and get his wife and then bring her to the place. So what he is saying is, but the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This bridegroom is gone for a year, maybe a year and a half, and he hears him. And he rejoices because now he's come to get his wife. Verse 31, "He who comes from above is above all. He who is from the earth belongs to the earth and speaks of the earth. He who comes from heaven is above all. What has seen and heard of all that testifies, and no one receives his witness. He who has received his witness has set his seal on it. on this, that God is true. For he whom God has sent speaks the words of God, for God gives the Spirit without measure. The Father loves the Son, and has given all things into his hand. One who believes in the Son has eternal life, but one who disobeys the Son won't see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. Chapter 4. Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, but his disciples, which is important, he left Judea and departed to Galilee. So he's going into Galilee. But we're going to stop there. We're going to go to some Psalms today, Proverbs, and then we're going to be done. Psalms 104. Starting in verse 24. Yahweh, how many are your works in wisdom? You have made them all. The earth is full of your riches. There is the sea with great and wide, in which are innumerable living things, both small and large animals. There the ships go, the Leviathan whom you formed to play there. These all wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. You give them, they gather. You open your hand, they are satisfied with good. You hide your face, they are troubled. You take away their breath, they die and return to the dust. You send out your spirit, and they are created. You renew the face of the ground. Let Yahweh glory endure forever. Let Yahweh rejoice in his works. He looks at the earth, and it trembles. He touches the mountains, and they smoke. I will sing to Yahweh as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have any being. Let my meditation be sweet to him. I will rejoice in Yahweh. Let sinners be consumed out of the earth. Let the wicked be no more. Bless Yahweh, my soul. Praise Yah. And the last one we're going to look is at a proverb. Proverbs 14. Verse 22. Don't they go astray who plot evil, but love and faithfulness belong to those who plan good. Don't they go astray who plot evil? What happened to the tribe of Benjamin? They went astray because they plotted evil. They protected the men that did those things, its horrible acts to this poor innocent woman. They protected them. So what do you think the whole tribe of Benjamin was doing? They were plotting evil. They were doing evil in that city. 23. In all the hard work there is profit, but the talk of the lips leads to only poverty. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Help us understand what's in your word and not let us skip because we don't understand what they were doing back then. We understand that back then it was much harder, rough times. There was no police force. There was no form of government. There was only tribes and big cities. And what happened in those cities? They could overcome those cities if they had armies big enough. There was no form of government, and we have to understand that. Where there was no police force, we also have to understand that. So these things that happened because there was no universal law that was taken down. Thank you for giving us a form of government where these things can't just happen and don't go unpunished. Thank you for giving it to us in this 21st century. So Lord, we pray for healing, but if not healing, we pray for strength to endure what you've given us to endure. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you guys for joining me, which is May the 5th, but yesterday was May the 4th and I did this, but I'm glad I'm redoing this because now I understand a little bit more. But I will see you guys tomorrow, May the 5th. I'll see you guys later.